Hello, and welcome to another Best Movies of 2021 list. This list is different from other lists, and I think it's one of the best. This is my personal list from the 70-some new releases I watched this past year, which is about my average. Many of these movies are not going to be for everyone, but if something does look interesting to you, I encourage you to seek it out. As we do every year, before we start, I'd like to give a very special mention to my favorite soundtrack of the year. There were plenty of memorable soundtracks to listen to in 2021. Some of my favorites were the soundtrack to writer, director, producer, and composer James Samuels' The Harder They Fall was a key part of its badass charm. The period instrumentation and haunting choral harmonies of The Green Knight helped conjure its unforgettable sense of atmosphere. Panicked jazz and ethereal arrangements in Don't Look Up perfectly complement and guide the tone of this end-of-the-world satire. Minardi's soft, uplifting score was largely responsible for me sobbing like a baby in the theater way back in February. And let me just say that hearing Dune's score for the first time in IMAX on an edible was incredible. But for me, the soundtrack of 2021 had to be
Bo Burnham, Inside.
I might be singing the songs from this Netflix comedy special for the rest of my sad little existence. It's the only soundtrack from 2021 I've purchased so far on vinyl. Inside technically isn't considered a movie, so I will not be including it in the upcoming movie list. This is where I have chosen to recognize it. As someone who has also turned 30 during this pandemic, no other feature-length piece of audiovisual entertainment so perfectly expresses what life, at least my life, has felt like in recent years. If I get to look back on these times, I will certainly remember these brilliant songs. Thank you, Bo Burnham. Thank you for giving me, and so many others, the soundtrack of 2021.
Visit shopboburnham.com. Bo Burnham Inside, now streaming on Netflix.
Next up, I'd like to recognize the best documentary that I saw from 2021. This category is self-explanatory. These movies document real events. For this type of movie, you should bring brains. In 2021, Edgar Wright made The Sparks Brothers, his debut documentary about a strange old comedy pop duo I had somehow never heard about until a few weeks ago. The Velvet Underground, also Todd Haynes' first documentary, is abrasive and hypnotic, exactly how a documentary about the band should be. And Peter Jackson candidly revealed to the world the infamous, tumultuous Let It Be recording sessions for an astonishing 8 hours in The Beatles' Get Back. From the people that brought us Free Solo came the equally suspenseful The Rescue, which bravely captures the life-risking heroics that saved a Thai soccer team trapped in a flooded cave. But for me, the documentary of 2021 was
Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised.
In his feature debut, director-producer Questlove unearthed a celebration of late 1960s black American culture. With acts like Stevie Wonder, Sly and the Family Stone, Nina Simone, and B.B. King among its set list, this is one of the best damn concerts you could ever see. It's also a time portal to an American turning point. Beneath the surface of this only too recent archaeological discovery are some sobering reminders of this country's history. These are some of the reasons why it's my pick for documentary of 2021.
Summer of Soul, now streaming on Hulu.
Next, we have our first narrative category, the family-friendly film of the year. These are your Disney movies, your PG dramas, comedies, musicals, and sports movies. These days, they're often animated. For this type of movie, you should bring everyone. In 2021, Ron's Gone Wrong was a silly robot comedy with nothing to say about its children are enslaved to technology theme. The all-Asian MacGuffin tale, Raya and the Last Dragon, had cool action sequences and a little too much Aquafina. Encanto featured Lin-Manuel Miranda songs in an on-brand musical celebration of uniqueness, family, and Colombia. Pixar's light-hearted Italian merfolk tale, Luca, featured some of the best-looking animated pasta I've ever seen. The manga-inspired animated French drama, The Summit of the Gods, pondered mortality through mountain climbing. But for me, the family film of 2021 was
The Mitchells versus the Machines.
This Technology is Destroying the World family road trip movie is jam-packed with goofy, chaotic, high-energy humor and enough detail to warrant repeat viewings. It's also one of the more mature films of its kind, with touching subplots about growing up, family, and acceptance, not to mention plenty of jabs at modern society and technology. The writing is clever and fun, and the voice cast is stellar. This is easily my pick for Family Film 2021.
The Mitchells vs. the Machines, now streaming on Netflix.
Our next category is the blockbuster. These are the big movies, the comic book movies, the epic sci-fi and fantasy, the westerns, the spy films, the monster movies. For this type of movie, you should bring popcorn. In 2021, Free Guy provided a fun summer balance of tech humor and sci-fi philosophy with plenty of cool effects and gaming Easter eggs. No Time to Die, Daniel Craig's nearly 3-hour swan song as James Bond was epic, emotional, and at times painfully meta. Spider-Man No Way Home spectacularly employed an unprecedented fan service stunt that I was more than cool with. James Gunn's bonkers and comically gory ensemble piece, The Suicide Squad, helped me with the sudden passing of Trevor Moore in August. The Harder They Fall's iconic cast, bold directorial vision, and banging soundtrack made for a unique, original spaghetti western experience. But for me, the blockbuster of 2021 was This marked one of the few times I saw a film adaptation after finishing the book, and I was beyond satisfied. This was my favorite movie theater experience of the year. Like The Lord of the Rings before it, the creative liberties taken to turn Dune into an epic, explosive, show-don't-tell cinematic spectacle were completely justified. Also, like The Lord of the Rings before it, it has a superb cast, jaw-dropping visuals, and an iconic score. Knowing how the story ends, this film couldn't have paused at a better way. I can't wait for part 2. And that's why it's my pick for Blockbuster 2021.
Dune, returning soon to HBO Max.
Next, we have the drama of the year. These are the biopics, the book adaptations, the war films, the romance, the period pieces, the Oscar bait. For this type of movie, you should bring tissues. In 2021, no one went to see Ridley Scott's multiple perspective, Knights in Armor, medieval court drama, The Last Duel, a film that steadily builds to its bloody, brutal showdown. Roll over The Power of the Dog, because Mass had one of the greatest acting quartets I've ever seen. 4 people in a room talk about the past in this heavy drama about forgiveness. It's riveting. Joaquin Phoenix played a radio journalist taking care of his young nephew in Come On, Come On, an intense family hug of a film for when the roof feels like it's about to collapse on you. I had high school choir flashbacks watching Coda, a tear-jerking coming-of-age story about a hearing girl from a poor deaf family who discovers that she can sing. And way back in February, Minari's quiet, heart-tugging meditation on farming, family, faith, failure, and rebirth deeply struck a chord with me. But for me, the drama of 2021, which coincidentally was also released last February, was
Judas and the Black Messiah.
First off, we should all thank Ryan Coogler. After directing the iconic billion-dollar phenomenon Black Panther, this man decides the first feature film he's going to get off the ground and produce with all his newly acquired industry clout is the true story of how our government assassinated Fred Hampton, largely because they saw him as a threat who could unite American leftism. As tragic as it is infuriating. This movie has the energetic pulse of something like The Departed, except that these hard hits were real. Kaluuya deservedly won a freaking Oscar for playing Fred Hampton. He and Lakeith Stanfield definitively prove they're two of the finest actors of my generation. And that's why it is my pick for Drama 2021.
Judas and the Black Messiah, now streaming on HBO Max.
After drama, we need to lighten it up with some comedy. These are the films that make us laugh. The satires, the rom-coms, the dark humor, the dramedies. You know, comedy. Comedy. For this type of movie, you should bring drinks. In 2021, I was delighted to see this ridiculous style of humor return in such a confident, vibrant way in Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. The viral series of tweets that birthed the outrageous dark comedy Zola was coined Spring Breakers meets Pulp Fiction back in 2015. That's exactly how the movie turned out. Experiencing the sweet but not innocent rom-com Licorice Pizza was like stepping in a time machine to the mischievous 1970s. For all its good and bad. Sean Baker's latest, Red Rocket, showcases an exceptional performance from Simon Rex and the director's trademark ability to find empathy and humor in grotty content. The dry comedy about inspiration and the importance of an editor, The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun gave us Wes Anderson at his most excessive and self-indulgent, even thematically. But for me, the comedy of 2021 was
Don't Look Up.
I find it hilarious that this end-of-the-world satire is getting so much criticism due to its loud preachiness and lack of subtlety. Maybe when it comes to the existential threat that is climate change, we don't have time for subtlety anymore, and maybe we need a little shouting. Which is, of course, what the characters are saying in the movie. Sometimes you need to just shut up and eat your vegetables, you know. This plate of veggies just happens to feature a hilarious all-star cast, exceptional editing, and a nearly perfect musical score from the great Nicholas Britell. I'm glad an accomplished filmmaker like Adam McKay continues to make ferocious comedies that condemn our society's asinine institutions and their complete lack of moral responsibility. I say bravo, and thank you to Adam McKay, David Sirota, and Netflix for making the comedy that the world didn't ask for, but frankly needed. And that's why it's my pick for Comedy 2021.
Don't Look Up, now streaming on Netflix.
And finally, for the 5th year in a row at my top spot, we have the suspense category. These are dark movies, disturbing movies, the noir, the horror, the thrillers, the mysteries. For this type of movie, you should bring Xanax. In 2021, Edgar Wright gave us Last Night in Soho, a psychological thrill ride in the year's best movie about an aspiring fashion designer in London. Bob Odenkirk brought pathos and humor to the F-em-up neo-noir nobody that elevates it from being a generic John Wick ripoff. Nicolas Cage brought his A-game in Pig, a deconstruction of John Wick tropes into a suspenseful and sorrowful slow burn about our passions and our past. Nightmare Alley was an energetic, psychological film noir seen through the mind of Guillermo del Toro, and one I can't wait to rewatch in grayscale. And the brooding, gothic fantasy tale, The Green Knight, was among the year's most memorable WTF movies, with its uncomfortable authenticity and haunting dissonance. But for me, the suspense film of 2021 was...
The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Joel Cohen carefully crafted a film adaptation of Macbeth for the ages. It's a slow and methodical descent into murder and madness, with menace lurking in every frame. I mean, the cinematography is straight out of a nightmare. Denzel Washington's trademark ability to keep cool under pressure is brought to its limit against the inherent frenzy of the role. It's an astonishing piece of work. The whole company of actors here is astounding, especially Catherine Hunter, who brilliantly plays all the weird sisters. I've always felt a current of mysticism within the Coens' previous work, which has me asking the terrifying question, why Macbeth? Why now? Perhaps it doesn't matter. Macbeth is timeless. Oh, make no mistake, this is thick Shakespeare dialogue and soliloquy, but the play has been impressively abridged to a crisp hour 45, and you really can't ask for more than that. If you're not into Shakespeare, this probably won't change your mind. But if you can appreciate the craft on display, this is a damn near perfectly made film. It's the kind of movie that will be studied for decades to come. And that's why it's my pick for Suspense Film 2021 and the best film of 2021.
The Tragedy of Macbeth, now streaming on Apple TV+.
Well, that about wraps up my best movies list for 2021. If you disagreed with any of my picks, that's cool, I don't really care. Hopefully you saw something that looked interesting to you. Now, I'd like to leave you all with some movie quotes that really stuck with me this year. And hey, thanks for stopping by.